Hi, my name is Richard Azerga from Microsoft. A few days ago, I authored a blog post that showed how to develop custom applications on top of the brand new Office graph. In that post, I had a solution that had basically a hard-coded query into the Office graph that I put a cool visualization on top of. I thought I would take that a step further and start issuing dynamic queries into the Office graph based upon something that a user does. And so let's take a look at the solution. So the new solution, I'm just calling it the Office Graph Explorer. You'll notice that it's going to look very similar to what we had in the first solution. But in this case, we're actually showing connections between different nodes. And we're not just including content, we're actually including users as well. So you can see that I have users or actors, if you will, that are color-coded orange. Also, if I hover over one of those, it'll have a little user icon next to their name. And content is green color-coded. So if I hover over one of these green items, you can see that it shows not only that color code, but it also shows a little document icon so that we know it's a document object and not an actor. So that's one component that's changed, the visualization in general. And again, this still has all the nice animated feel to it. But one of the things that we're doing as well is allowing you to start traversing the Office graph. So there's a few ways we can do that. The first is simply by clicking on a new actor, and I can move them into the center of the nucleus. So for example, let's look at we'll look at Garrett Vargas here. So if I click on Garrett, what you'll see is it'll refresh and it'll put Garrett into the nucleus of this visual. I will say that the distance between the circles in the center are random. It's random so that it fits on the screen, but the size of each of the circles is indicative of a new variable that's big in the Office graph, which is the edge weight. So there's a lot that can be found around edge weight, both on MSDN and in my blog, but ultimately the edge weight is really what's driving kind of what the most closeness is in this case. So this document is the most close to Garrett in this case. So that's one really cool way we can start navigating this. I'll just point out another kind of quick improvement. I saw a few posts about some images weren't coming up using the Get Image Preview. So one of the things that I did is that if it actually doesn't generate a preview, I'll actually put an icon instead. So a good example of that is right here. This doesn't have an icon or a preview, so I simply put an Excel icon. And I do this for PDFs, I do it for Word, and even profiles that don't have a profile picture. Cool, so that's one way of traversing this is by clicking on different actors. But another way of really issuing dynamic queries into the Office graph is by using a new menu that I have over to the side. So if I click the menu, you can see I have an entire refinement panel where I can go apply different queries into the Office graph. So for instance, right now I'm showing trending content as well as colleagues and then some users that the user work with. If I wanted to remove all of the users, I can simply uncheck all of the user-related filters and reapply, and it'll go do a new query, and again you can see it goes and refreshes the graph. Or if I wanted to again go ahead and pull in all of those users that Garrett in this case works with, I can simply apply the filter, and you can see it goes back to bringing in both the objects and the actors that are all nice and color-coded. Finally, this resizes really nicely. So if I were to resize this browser, what you'll see is it'll go and resize all of the images and pull that into a nice, cool-looking visual. It's very similar to some of the, again, architecture slides that we saw when we first announced the Office graph. So anyway, this is version 2 of some of the cool apps built on top of the Office graph. This one does a lot more dynamic queries. And in the blog post, I'll kind of cover how I'm building those. So I ultimately, when I go and I load an actor, everything centers around an actor in this. So what we're going to do is basically go through those individual checkboxes, those refinement checkboxes, and we'll dynamically build a query. So we'll provide the actor's ID and then the action, and we'll concatenate all those together. We'll issue multiple queries. So we might do one that is centered just around getting users back, and then we'll do a similar thing for objects. So actors and objects we'll treat a little bit differently, but ultimately we'll be generating these dynamic queries into the Office graph. So check out the blog post and pull down the new solution. I'm interested to see where it goes and where people want to take it. Thanks a lot.